Hi, friends and loved ones and family. Hi, fools. How you all doing today? I'm embracing the fool today, and the trickster, and the seagull, and coyote. Yeah, coyote, and the trickster, and bear medicine, introspection, and wolf, the teacher, the great teacher that reminds us that, yeah, we're all teachers and we're all students and we're all fools, we're all learning, and we're all right to be. Yeah. This one true, whole, full soul and a part of the whole. And yeah, I wanted to do something different today. I chose to do a video or two just solely for myself yesterday to remind me that these videos really are a practice for me. And they help me show up and they keep me accountable. They help to keep me accountable and focused and working on my stuff. But yeah, in certain ways it's like I've got too hyper fixated on that working on my stuff, and it's just like it's time to kind of let that go now or shift into something new where I don't always have to be looking and picking for stuff to fix or to work on or to heal and all of that. And I just get to let it go and let my soul reveal to me through my feelings and through synchronicities and through its messages and through connections, through relationships, to respond and answer the call. And yeah, so just kind of taking a little reset and remembering some things and trying some new things because, yeah, it feels like my process gets to be revivified and rewilded in certain ways. Just getting into like a routine sometimes, it can get a little bit stale. And yeah, I just feel like shaking it up, breaking it up, waking up, and trying something new. And also, yeah, letting go of what I think I'm not supposed to say and or how I'm supposed to be and how I'm supposed to show up and how I'm supposed to be me. And going to work with that and willing to work with that and invite and welcome that and explore and create and free all that. And so that's what I get to choose for me. And that's the power of choice. And that's the power of responsibility, responding. Yeah. And knowing that we have the ability to respond and these abilities to see and these abilities to be, the power of choice and the power of being. And so, yeah, it's less about doing and more about being, making the room for the inspired actions to come through. And yeah, less thinking, a little less thinking. And that's difficult to do when we're in our minds a lot and in that spirit of thinking. Yeah, that mode, that way of operating. Yeah, overthinking. And so that's been coming up for me a little bit. But yeah, the video that I did yesterday, wanted to address the shadow. I wanted to acknowledge and address the shadow and talk about the shadow. And also wanted to talk about our emotions and emotional exploitation and psychological manipulation and ego trickery, self-deception, and yeah, just fooling ourselves, tricking ourselves, and forgiving ourselves. And I wrote a little bit this morning, and I'll just share a little bit. Feeling some shifts and some density falling away, burdens being lifted, and false ceilings being removed and breaking up. Breakthroughs breaking open to break through. To get through to ourselves, to get over ourselves, through overriding, sidestepping, dissolving, facing or transmuting, integrating or surrendering and releasing. Hearts opening, expanding, blossoming, blooming, soul awakening, remembering, expressing, offering. True participating, engaging, blessing, praising, thanking, full forgiving, receiving, sharing, honoring, exchanging. I recorded some videos for myself yesterday. I was trying something new, something different, choosing, claiming, making room for new actions and new ways of being, operating, offering, cooperating, engaging through whole new ways. Let it go and let it be. Just be and let love be free. I want to share about the shadow, our worth, our story, our legitimacy, our power, and the old systems of domination and control. Our power to choose, our power to love, our power to create, our power to be, our power to manifest, our power to dream, our power to claim and access, harness, command, direct, honor, embody, and respect, develop and protect, express, receive, and connect. So I am going through some ego shedding and shedding some of those old roles, those old identities. So there's certain self-doubts and old stories coming up and breaking through, coming into my awareness to transmute and transform, to reclaim my own power, to be born again through. Transforming the wound, transforming the world, transforming the womb through which we birth and regenerate new life, new love, and the light through. Simplicity, it really isn't that difficult to understand or convey. Seagulls, responsibility and communication and behavior. Community, communing through integrity, intuition, feeling receptivity, listening and responding, answering the call, awareness and presence. Yeah, so all good things to focus on and to invite in, welcome in, call on, be with, receive, play with, work with, and integrate these new ways, these whole new ways of being. And so this morning I saw like this huge flock of seagulls. I don't even know if I could call it a flock because there were so many of them. It looks like 10 flocks of seagulls, and they're just doing their little dance of light and together, and just watching like the patterns and how they just do their thing, and how they know like what patterns and that electromagnetic like sensing, how they communicate in certain ways. And just thought about them yesterday as well. So I decided to look at my animal speak book, and I remembered, though, because Seagull has come up for me several times every year. It's responsibility and communication, so it's about communication. And I have been asking for help with communication and to speak about certain things and to voice certain things I haven't been able to express or to really say, or to allow myself to talk about, to engage a new dialogue and bring awareness to new ways, and wanting to bring awareness, the light of awareness, to the shadow, to what we haven't seen, to the parts of us, to our aspects that we've denied, forgotten about, left unclaimed, dismissed, dishonored, neglected, rejected in ourselves. We've been taught that those parts of ourselves were wrong, or they weren't safe, or there was something wrong with us, so we had to put it away. So it's like carrying this knapsack with us that's we've forgotten about. We're carrying it around, and it's like all this stuff. Like there's a lot of garbage in there too that doesn't belong to us. And just a lot of distorted beliefs about who we are, or about like what aspects have been denied, what certain energies that we've like been taught to deny or give away. or hide. Yeah. And so if if creation is like a microcosm and a macrocosm and it all relates as above so below, we really get to remember and get to know that everything has a shadow. And if we're here, we do have a shadow, or else we wouldn't be able to manifest. We wouldn't be able to manifest anything in this dimension, in this reality, on this plane of existence. And so we do all have a shadow, and it's not just darkness. It's been in the dark because we've been unconscious of it, but we get to bring it into the light. And it's not just like all of these things that we don't like about ourselves or that we don't like want to experience. It's like a lot of our own power and gold and light has been thrown into the shadow. And it's been projected onto others in the world, people that we want to see as like our shining heroes, people that we believe or have been taught to believe hold that or can carry that for us. And so, yeah, we do project a lot of our own power onto the external world and onto others, onto people that we deem as worthy or acceptable or something, admirable or noble. The qualities that we really, really love and admire, that we like project onto others, like we carry within ourselves. And maybe we like how, yeah, they express their light and their charm and their skills and their strengths and their gifts, and we deny our own. And yeah, we expect, like, yeah, those projections to fulfill some kind of need or some kind of reinforce some kind of belief for us. And yeah, we like to celebrate and we like to praise and we like to be prideful of those things that we've been taught to care about or value. And we don't claim them in ourselves. And so, in a way, we're making ourselves a little self important by separating ourselves, making ourselves separate from like that other that we're projecting our own power onto. And so, it makes us self impotent in a lot of ways. And yeah, let's get over that. Let's get over ourselves and let's get through that. Let's get through to ourselves. Remember to laugh at ourselves. Remember not to take it so seriously. Remember not to take things so personally. I get to remind myself of that every single day. Try to take it easy and to be easygoing about things. And it's a lot of old conditioning as well that contributes to like suppressing ourselves, repressing ourselves, shoving that shadow back down, or what wants to emerge or what's ready to emerge from the unconscious, from the sea of unconsciousness, and come into our awareness. Yeah, sometimes it is like, oh, it is a dance, and it's a jerky dance, and it's a trickster dance, and we trick and fool ourselves, and through the overthinking and through the second guessing and the fifth, sixth guess, of that overthinking and questioning ourselves and not trusting ourselves or not trusting those instincts that we have to know ourselves and to be aware of what actually is. Like, yeah, there's some crazy ego machinations that like trip us up all the time. And so, yeah, it is a wild ride. And it is amazing, really, too, our resilience that we do have and our incredible awesomeness, like that just is who we are, like how we have been well and truly fucked with in so many ways, but we're still like, I can still see it every day, like the light in everyone and like the love that they are. And even though we've been through so much like suffering and bullshit and pain and mind manipulation and control, like through these systems of domination and control, Oh my gosh, I can't even believe like how freaking resilient and amazing we are. Like coming through all this, coming this far, like when we've been bombarded and dumped on so much, when we dump on ourselves, and we've been trained to do that. And there's that part of our psyche that has copied or mirrored like the external authority and the judge and the victim, and always is telling us, oh, we're wrong, we're so wrong, we're so sick, wrong, and weak, and just we have it all wrong. And so we don't know anything. And yeah, we're not worthy, and we need to justify our lives, and we're just taking up space, and we're useless eaters, and like we don't deserve like to be here, and we don't deserve to have this life, and we have to sacrifice it because gosh, that's just, like what we're only good for is to sacrifice and give our power away so that someone else that's more useful can use it, or whatever, like all that bullshit and silliness that we've been taught to believe. And those are some of our old core beliefs. And it takes a little digging and a little looking into, looking through, seeing through like the lenses that we've learned to view through, or been taught or imprinted, conditioned, trained, taught to learn or to view or to see ourselves through. And it is like a lot of unlearning, and it's a lot of unraveling, and it's a lot of unwinding from these binds of the mind, the poisoned mind, um, that we've agreed to. We've agreed to some of these old beliefs that just are not true, and they cannot be sustained any longer. It's going to take way too much energy. So it's a good time to let them go, let them fall away, or let them dissolve, or let them be transmuted, let them be laid to rest, and to make space and room for what's really true so we can remember what's really true. And with that said, I'll just share a little bit about Seagull from Animal Speak by Ted Andrews. Responsible behavior and communication, and their cycle of power is year round. So gulls are wonderful birds. Gulls are wonderful birds. Most people, especially in seashore resort areas, have a tendency to look upon them as pests. In communities away from human contact, their behavior is much different. Maybe it's the natural food too versus like the processed food, or like if we leave our garbage or our waste around, like these are the birds that come to clean up the stuff and the refuse. And so seagulls, or herring gulls as they are rightfully called, are actually shorebirds, and they seldom venture far from land. Shorelines are places of great mystery and magic. It is a place neither of land nor of the sea. It is between the two. It is one of those regions often associated with fairy contact, the fairy realms. So yeah, there's magic right there. And yeah, that's pretty potent. The in-between. Because of this, goals can help teach us how to open communications with the fairy realm of life, especially the water sprites and spirits. This idea is further reinforced by the fact that goal is associated with the element of water as well as the air. It is a bird which can combine the gifts of swimming and flying. It is very buoyant in the water. It knows how to work in both kingdoms. It knows the behaviors appropriate to both. This reflects the ability to teach you how to behave and work in other dimensions than that which is normal. Or known, I guess, maybe. Maybe known, yeah, is what's normal to us, and maybe the abnormal is what isn't known to us, and that's why we're kind of afraid of it or kind of resistant to it. The appearance of a goal usually indicates lessons or abilities in proper behavior, courtesy, and communication. It may reflect you need the lessons, or that you may become a teacher of such. It may also reflect new learning in the subtleties of communication. Goals have developed an intricate code of behavior. They have developed a regular signal code for all of their ritual activities. They use a combination of calls and gestures. They can help you to understand the subtleties of communication, what is not being ostensibly expressed. They can help you read between the lines and understand the body language of others. They hold knowledge of the techniques of psychological communication. Goals also help to keep the beaches and shores clean. They are ecological birds. Their appearance as a totem may reflect opportunities to work on ecology in general, or to work on cleaning up shore areas of your own life. The young are fussy eaters and they have to be stimulated to eat, and the color red is their eating stimulus. Adult mother gulls have a red spot on their beak. The baby gulls know that only by poking at it or pecking at it will they get something to eat. This process reflects many subtle lessons. It has ties to proper eating behaviors, stimulation of diet, physical and otherwise, and more. Meditation on this will elicit some wonderful insight into your own patterns and stimuli. So that is very interesting because the proper eating behaviors, and it's not just the food that we eat, it's what we choose to take in, what we are consuming, what we bring into ourselves. And that has to do with our stimulus, what we are taking in through our senses. So what we're viewing, what we're listening to, and how we're perceiving or responding to that stimulus as well. And a lot of that is through certain emotions and through certain descriptions and through certain stories that color our lenses. And we all do have our own filters, biases, and preconceived notions, and our ways of perceiving and our learned ways of perception. So there's a lot of things that do contribute to what we're actually taking in and seeing and consuming and receiving, what we're digesting, what we're assimilating. And yeah, how does that relate, to our own diet, our steady diet of like stimulus? And where are we focusing our attention? And where are we giving our energy away? Where are we giving our energy away? What are we putting our energy into? Where are we directing our energy? Are we just open to having our existing beliefs reinforced and rejecting everything else, or unable to open to anything else? Do we feel so threatened and challenged that we can't consider anything else? Can we still allow our own story? Just set it aside. There's my story. Okay, let's look at another story. Like, I don't see why it's so hard. We watch different television shows, we watch different movies, and those movies and stuff don't have to have like any kind of conflict between them because we know they're different movies or they're different stories, they're different shows. So can we start to look at that in certain ways, like when we're listening to someone who has different views than us, as it's just a different story. It's not a threat to my story. Let's just enjoy this person's story or this person's experience, receive and listen to what they have to share. And it doesn't have to challenge, undermine, threaten, destroy, dissolve my own story. Like, can we be a little more open-minded, like we claim that we are, or like we actually desire to become? Or are we okay just being rigid and like self-righteous and a tyrant? My way, my way, my way, my way, or the highway. And anyone else who doesn't believe in my way, is dismissed or demeaned, ridiculed, blamed, scapegoated, exiled, ridiculed, made a example of, labeled, dehumanized, because they're different, and they're different than us, and they're talking about, it's crazy and it's unknown to us, so we're scared of it and we don't want to open up to it. But let's look at those things. Like, what is so fragile that we cannot keep sustaining our own beliefs if something else comes along? That means that there's some shaky shaky foundations that we've built our tower, constructed our tower upon. Shaky foundation. If it can't withstand like a little test or those things. So let's look at our rigidities and like why we feel so threatened, and what it actually is that we're defending or protecting. And sometimes, yeah, we are repelled, yeah, by certain stories or because of, yeah, certain wounds, certain traumas, certain things that we are trying to protect, defend, or justify. And it's good to look at those things like, why? Yeah. Where are we getting in our own way? And why can't we allow like someone another story? Or why aren't we willing, or are we willing to expand or widen our own views? And what is that really dangerous too if we're able to like expand and widen our own views and perspectives? What is that really a danger to? Is that a danger to the status quo? Is that a danger to our ego? Is that a danger to what we know or what we think we know? Is it a danger to who we want others to see us as, or who like we want to believe that we are? Um, how we want others to see us, yeah. Are we so fragile like that we have to control like all those things instead of like letting the truth stand on its own, because the truth does stand on its own. And yeah, those who will see it will see it. Those who are willing will see it. And so I did want to talk about the shadow, and I opened my Rise Sister Rise book by Rebecca Campbell, and I flipped open to a page here in the middle of the book and just gonna read a few paragraphs. So, our intention, let's see, when working with past lives should always be to notice without attachment. If you are mistreated or experience something traumatic, allow yourself to feel it and everything that comes with it, but resist the urge to carry on playing that role and living that story in this life. Take the wisdom, take the lessons, take the strength, but don't lose yourself in the drama of the story that you stop living this life that you have now. Don't let your ego get in the way of unshackling your soul. Don't get stuck in the romance and drama of it. Resist the urge to let your ego get in the way, saying, I was this famous person from history, I was a queen, or wallowing in the martyrdom of the suffering. It's also important to remember that most of us have played the roles of both victim and villain. We have been the accused, and so too the accuser, the persecuted and the persecutor. Keep your mind open and cast judgment aside. We are all made of light and shadow. Refrain from the urge to want to see only the light, for the shadow is often the thing that binds you the tightest. As we know better, we do better. It is through making bad decisions and becoming more conscious of our actions that we are able to become more aligned and certainly more free. So my intention in looking at past lives is so that we can free ourselves from the way these past experiences are keeping us bound in our current lives. In looking at the shadow and the light, we are able to release the chains that bind us, just as we are also able to call upon the skills and power that we have embodied before. So rise, sister, rise. Ask the part of you that knows. So there's some fun little exercise. If it feels right. If I had to guess, I'd say that a past life that binds me is something to explore. Yeah. And what happened that your soul wants you to remember? What advice does this part of you have for you today? If I had to guess, I'd say one of my past lives that strengthens me is what happened that your soul wants you to remember? What advice does this part of you have for you today? If you feel called to go deeper on your past lives, you may like to try my past lives journey at www.risesisterrise.com. So maybe I'll check that out later. And yeah, I just opened to this next page that I haven't seen yet. You can be scared and still be safe. It's okay to be scared. In fact, when it comes to rising, feeling scared or unsure is really quite normal, especially when doing the work that your soul is calling you to do, especially if you are called to forge a new way of doing things and transforming yourself. If you didn't feel a little bit unsure, that would be odd. I've got a quote on my wall by Joan of Arc which reads this: I am not afraid. I was born to do this. And I like that quote too. And I remember it. I am not afraid. I was born. I was born for this. Yeah. For so long, I looked at Joan's fierceness and wondered how she could stand with such conviction. However, she is known for courage, and courage isn't the absence of fear, it's facing what you are afraid of. When I feel into that quote now, I feel it as almost a mantra, assuring herself that she can do it regardless of the fear. If you are afraid to transform, rise, or pave a new path, that's my heart's deepest prayer for you, to find the courage to rise despite and perhaps especially because of the fear. We are in a constant state of change. Each new moment is unknown. We do not know what is coming, and we do not know what we are transforming into. The thing that makes it harder is resisting it, like standing at the edge of the highest diving board and looking down, stopping and taking in the sheer height and all the space between you and the water. The longer you wait, the more excruciating it gets. But if you move in one big sweeping motion, by the time you come up for air, you say, that wasn't so bad, let's do it all again. This is the constant process of rising, of moving with life. The longer you resist, the harder it gets. But if you allow the rhythm of the motion to take you, you start seeing it as a ride. Rise, sister, rise mantra. It's possible for me to feel scared and still be safe. It's safe for me to be open. It's safe for me to open the back of my heart. Every moment of every day, we are to some degree standing at the edge of that diving board. The more you think about it and resist the inevitable, the scarier it gets. But if you allow the fear by breathing into it deeply and then leaping into the constant state of surrender, you begin swimming with Source. You become Source in motion, and when the water catches you, you discover that it is possible to feel scared and still be safe. Rise, sister, rise. What are you afraid to do that you have been avoiding? And so that's perfect. Perfect for me. There's some things I've been avoiding and resisting and overthinking. And a lot of that is, just who am I supposed to show up and be? And it's just like, just show up and be yourself. Yeah, be your whole self, be all of yourself. And remembering that it's okay for me to make mistakes, because that was one of the things that really did bind me in old chains, was not giving myself permission to make mistakes, and the worry, the fear of getting it right, and like also the fear of hurting others or being harmed myself. Like, all those things, and or doing it wrong, or appearing wrong, and not being liked, not being right. All those things were like some of my core beliefs, or some of the things that have held me back from like answering the call, and from just surrendering and trusting and embracing it all. So remembering in the last few days, embrace the full. Oh yeah, yep. Embrace the full, because wisdom does not exist alone. And it's okay to let go, and it's okay to embrace the unknown. And that's what's like just really scary, is not having a frame of reference any longer to compare things to, and feeling like out of my element and out of control in certain ways, like where using the old survival strategies did bring somewhat of a sense of control, or like the ego sense of control and security. And now that's just no longer working, or no longer viable, and it's like a waste, way too much energy, and it's working against myself. And so just finding certain ways to reconcile these things and just to let it all go. And that's just the theme, the theme of the week and the month or so, is just letting go. And so I thought it was kind of interesting how like some of that does just relate in a lot of ways. And about our stories as well, I'll just share a little bit of what I wrote yesterday, February 20th. Shining the light of awareness and illuminating the darkness, bringing it into the light through the darkness of the night, the black light, the fertile dark, the loving darkness of her womb, her heart womb cave. They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds. So in certain ways, this darkness is helping us to self-realize and become who we need to be. The world is polarized to the extreme, or our perceptions have been distorted to polarized extremes. sometimes we need to experience the extreme so we can find the middle way to our whole true well-being, our whole ways of being. Holding the tension between the extremes, the in-between. Yes, they are the same, just at different or varying degrees. Just gotta laugh at all the stupidity, all the silliness, embracing the fool and remembering not to take it all so seriously or personally. It is a train wreck, a circus, a sideshow, a joke, a game, and a grand show, a story, a play, for our growth, healing, discovery, and learning. A gift to experience, being, becoming, and co creating. A dream to be with the beloved, becoming, and to come home. Yeah, to come home to me and we. All this love we are and will be. For one, for all, for God, for me, we. See the light in everything, be one, be love, be at peace. But also acknowledge and address the shadow. And I've been wanting to do that for quite some time now, to bring it into the light of awareness, not to collapse a tower or bring something down, but just to become more aware and to see into, to see through, into like these chains that we've been bound to or that we've agreed to. And just wondering in certain ways, like how to do that, how to show up and do that or explain that. And it's like in another way, like, oh, I have to justify my beliefs or defend my beliefs and all that. But remembering too, what I don't need to. Like, it's really unnecessary because the truth stands on its own. And yeah, I'm just sharing my own experiences, my own feelings, my own stories, my own ways of seeing, being, perceiving, and integrating all of these things that I've journeyed through and learned through and played into, worked through, and discovered, and knowing myself through, claiming myself through all of these things, all of these energies, all of these aspects that were unknown and that were hidden or forgotten or hijacked or usurped in certain ways. And it's like, it is a big homecoming, and it's a homecoming and coming home to ourselves. What wants to be said? Yeah, this hasn't been easy either. Like, a lot of people make it look really easy. Just getting on there and speaking and talking about what they know or what they think they know or what they've experienced or sharing their own stories. And yeah, it's not super easy. Like, but it is, sometimes we make it a little more challenging or a little harder or a little more difficult for ourselves when we overthink it and we like, keep looking into the abyss. And all those distortions and things like through that overthinking. And it's just funny, like how we can keep tricking ourselves and going in circles again and again. So, this is an opportunity to come to certain self-realizations and clear insights in order to shift old ways of being or old ways of unconsciously operating that are no longer working for us or aligned with our full true ways of being. Sometimes it is a rude awakening, and sometimes it's a train wreck of a gigantic collapse of old structures and shaky foundations to help us see what we haven't seen before. And it is interesting to see how certain dynamics and old patterns play out through our various relationships and experiences. And it's not easy facing our own bullshit, our fears, our shadows, our false beliefs that we've unconsciously learned to project onto others and into the world. Sometimes it's pretty painful, actually, and sometimes the beginning stages of the healing process, the grieving process, the birth process are far more painful or feel more painful than the original injury or wounding. And that's like kind of maybe why I'm in resistance to it too. Like, I want to avoid that. I want to stay comfortable, stay in my comfort zone. And then there's another part of me that's like, It's time to go now. It's time to leave the nest. It's time to, yeah, dive and fly. Time to jump into the abyss and realize you can fly. And the other part of me is holding on. No, 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 no. I'm not ready. Kicking and screaming. So I feel like that can relate. If I'm going through that, and others can relate. And yeah, because it's the, yeah, me and we. So I know we're not all experiencing the same things, but I know we can relate definitely on certain things and through certain varying degrees of, yeah, what we're experiencing, what we're perceiving, what we're seeing, what we're feeling, what we're sensing. Yeah, what's emerging now, what's coming into being, all those good things. So yeah, I have some good things to look at, where I've been resisting new things because it's like, oh, I don't know how to do this. And that's like what's kind of contributing to my feelings of stuckness, even though I know I'm not stuck. Like I know it's always in motion, it's always moving, and it's just like getting out of my own way and remembering to play and not take it all so seriously, but remembering like to be respectful and to be honoring and to be present and to be aware and to use care, to be full of care and to be mindful, but like really surrendering to the moment, to my soul, to my inner knowing, and to the not knowing, to the inner full, to my joy, to my passions, to what is whole, to, yeah, what wants to be born through this new, full, true, the space that's been created for that to come through, for love to come through. So, yeah, and oh yes, we've all been encouraged in certain ways to play the virtuous victim. And that's like the lenses that we've been taught to see through as well, like to see ourselves as virtuous, as this victim, as this sacrificial lamb, and to make sacrifices. And the martyr, yeah, it's all about the martyr. Like, oh, to be worthy, you've got to sacrifice your life. You've got to sacrifice your energy. You've got to sacrifice your well-being for something or someone else. Like, yeah, to be seen as worthy. And that's just not true. That's a myth and an old story. And we get to see that through our own ways, like how that applies to us or relates to us in and through our own journeys and through our own relationships and our relationships that we have with ourselves. So the virtuous victim and the blame and shame game. Yeah, so we've been encouraged to play into that, or play at being the virtuous victim. And that's what keeps the blame shame game going. And we all have played the villain and the victim. And we all have been persecuted, and we've all persecuted others. And yeah, the blame shame game. And that's what perpetuates the cycle of pain and suffering. And so are we ready to let that go? Like, really? So let's look at our own shadows. Let's look at where we've punished ourselves, or where we've denied ourselves, or where we've disallowed ourselves in certain ways, where we've repressed, suppressed, and oppressed ourselves, where we become a tyrant to ourselves and a tyrant to others around us. And yeah, it's interesting to see that in certain ways, because we feel like the tyrant's beating us down, but that's like our own self, like in certain ways too, or the outer tyrant on the outer stage is a reflection of that inner tyrant on the inner stage, on the inner plane. So like, how can we integrate that inner tyrant that we've learned to perceive others, or to reinforce our ego, to reinforce our stories, to reinforce our sense of security, our sense of safety. Yeah, it's just not going to be viable anymore to be playing into those strategies, or else, yeah, we're totally giving all of our creative energy and our power and the power of choice away. And like, if we think it's only one way and everyone needs to follow that one way because it's for the best for everyone. Yeah, that's like a manipulation of the mind, and that is a bind of the mind. Yeah, that only we can discover and find, like within ourselves, how that's tripped us up, how that's deceived us into thinking that we need to give our power away, or that we don't have any power, or that there isn't another way. So those are good things to look at and sit with, be with, and allow to percolate and ask questions about, like, through our own ways, like how can we bring those things into the light of our own awareness? How do they play out in and through our own relationships and the relationships we have with ourselves? And like, how do our core belief systems, how do they reinforce stories, or what stories reinforce our core beliefs? Yeah, because they play off of each other. And that's why we keep creating the same things over and over again through those projections and perceptions. What we take in, what we consume, what we choose to bring into ourselves and through our attention. And then how that influences our behavior and our intentions, and how things get distorted, how our own views, the ways that we see ourselves are distorted, the ways that we see others, the way that we see, like, how things operate in the world through these structures, these inverted structures, these structures that have been turned upside down and inverted and perverted to conceal the truth. They're presented as truth, but they're actually fiction. And how they've been used to steer us, manipulate us, influence us, influence our perception and our choices and our decisions that we may not even be aware of or very conscious of, like, in so many ways, because we've been imprinted since we were very young. And we are constantly bombarded and broadcasted. There are like spells being broadcasted all of the time through different words, through different images, and controlled perceptions. And so that's like just a lot of how we have been manipulated and how we manipulate ourselves. We ignore certain signs, we ignore certain messages. Just take, for instance, like certain sensations in our bodies, like where maybe our lower back hurts or our shoulders are really tense. We're holding like tension in our neck or our shoulders, and we don't realize like how tight we've become until like we are told or prompted or nudged to like, oh, just relax, and then we realize how tense we were. And it's just kind of like coming home, like to what is now, what is in this now moment, in this present moment, and coming back to our breath, coming back to our bodies, coming back to present, and to feeling what we're actually feeling right now. And sometimes, yeah, it does, since we've been stuck in our minds a lot, like we have been disconnected, or it's easy to become disconnected when we're not present and in our bodies consciously, are experiencing like life and our soul through our senses. Sometimes it takes some practice and playing with that to come back and to be receptive and open to those messages that are always communicating. Their spirit and soul and love and life and light and shadow are always speaking and expressing and communicating with us. It's just we haven't been attuned or tuned into those channels or receivers of consciousness. And so we are a channel, and we are a conduit, and we are a medium. We are that middle and we are that in between, like for the micro and the macro. That's the mesocosm. And we are that conduit for God and for spirit and for soul to come through and experience and create and be and embody and dream and manifest reality. and for consciousness, to expand and to play through. So, if we're all a medium, there are false mediums, and that is where the media comes from. And we all do need like different perspectives and to listen to different stories and different ways of being and different ways of seeing and experiencing life. But like, we've given a lot of our power away because we feel like, what, I'm insignificant, I'm this small nobody, and those people know, like the experts or like that external authority that we've been taught to listen to or give our power away to, or receive through, like receiving messages through them, and neglecting, rejecting like our own power or our own ability to be able to receive through our own like body, our own wisdom, our own intelligence, our own senses, our own consciousness. Let's look at those things and help ourselves refine our discernment by tuning back in, grounding in, coming back in. Looking from within to navigate through all of these changes and these shifts that we're going through. So I hope that's helpful in certain ways. To look at our own stories and to look at the roles that we've been playing and look at what we're attached to, look at the identities that we're attached to, or look at who we think we are. Let's look at who we think or what we think we know about ourselves and our world, and be willing to let that go, or to say, okay, that's what I think I know, but what else is possible? Can we start to consider certain things that we haven't really been able to consider before, or entertain certain thoughts without agreeing to them? Like, that's a true sign of intelligence. Albert Einstein said that the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over and over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And if we could see and understand that that's what we've been doing in certain ways, where we keep perpetuating and keep recreating, recycling through like the same pain and suffering, because there's a certain formula to it. And he also said that we can't solve our problems on the same levels of consciousness that they were created from. And so we get to override those. And so, all interesting things to look into, or to look at, to see into, to see through. And it's not easy. It's very traumatic, actually, looking into certain things. Sometimes, like, we're so attached to certain things that it is very painful. Sometimes we invested a lot of pride into certain things, into our egos and our personas, our belief systems, the life that we've built, our tower that we've constructed, and so it's painful when it collapses or when it turns to dust, and everything seems lost, and we don't know who we are anymore. Like, if we lose like that foundation of who we think that we are, like, and it can be like very painful and very humbling, but there's nowhere to go but up, and to reconstruct. So that's the stage that I'm currently feeling myself in, is reconstruction phase through the stages of grief. I was stuck in my anger for a while, and sifting through my anger and sorting through my anger and working and playing with my anger. And in the beginning of it, like, it was very intense and very like I needed to be very, very, very present with it to refrain from directing it or dumping it or hurting someone else with it. Like, and I got to like really really learn how to be with it and direct it and just kind of listen and observe it and everything. And so I spent months and months and months and months intensely like working with and through my anger. And it felt like stuck in there for a while, like, yeah, where it just wasn't moving. And I just kept working with it, showing up for it, and just paying attention to it. But I did get to learn and see through certain things, like where I could get carried away with it and I could reinforce it. And I was recycling through it again and again through certain ways and through certain patterns. And then after a while of that and kind of like, okay, I think I think I see this now. And then also like falling into old patterns of not really wanting to be with it or not wanting to see it and wanting to be done with it because, oh man, like this is so old. What do I do with it? But realizing that it is like right to feel like what I feel and to respond to that and to answer the call, because it's a part of me, an aspect of me or my power, a part of my being that has a message for me and validity and value and legitimacy. And so I just wanted to share this last little thing on anger and about instinct and injury from Women Who Run with the Wolves. And yeah, it was something I picked up right before this video. And I'll read this little part first. Injured instinct and rage. Women and men tend to try to draw an end to old episodes by saying, I, he, she, they did the best they could. But to say they did the best they could is not forgiveness. Even if true, that peremptory statement cuts off the possibility of healing. It is like applying a tourniquet above a deep wound. To leave the tourniquet on after a time causes gangrene for lack of circulation. Denying anger and pain does not work. If a woman is instinct injured, she is typically faced with several challenges regarding rage. First, she often has a problem with intrusion recognition. She is slow to notice territory violations and does not register her own anger until it is upon her. Like the man at the beginning of The Withered Trees, and I want to read that story. Her temper comes upon her in a kind of ambush. This lag is the result of instincts injured by exhortations to little girls to not notice dissension, to try to be a peacemaker at all costs, to not interfere, and to stand the pain until everything calms down or temporarily goes away. Typically, such women do not act upon the rage they feel, but jump the gun or have a delayed reaction weeks, months, or even years later, realize what they should have, could have, would have said or done. This is usually not caused by shyness or introversion, but by too much fifth and sixth guess thinking, too much trying to be nice to one's own detriment, and not enough acting from the soul. The wild soul knows when and how to act if a woman will only listen. Right response carries insight and right amounts of compassion and strength mixed together. Injured instinct must be righted by practicing and enforcing strong boundaries and by practicing firm and, when possible, generous responses, but solid ones nevertheless. A woman may have difficulty releasing anger even when it impedes her own life, even when it causes her to obsessively dwell upon events years old as though they happened yesterday. Dwelling on trauma and doing so intensely for a period of time is very important to healing, but eventually all injury has to be given sutures and be allowed to heal over into scar tissue. Collective rage. Collective anger or rage is also a natural function. There is such a phenomenon as group hurt, group grief. Women who become socially, politically, or culturally conscious often find that they have to deal with collective rage that seeps upward through them again and again. It is psychically sound for women to feel this anger. It is psychically sound for them to use this anger about injustice to invent ways to elicit useful change. It is not psychologically sound for them to neutralize their anger so they will not feel, so they will therefore not press for evolution and change. As with personal rage, collective anger is also a teacher. Women can consult with it, question it in solitude with others, and act upon their conclusions. There is a difference between carrying around old, ingrown rage and stirring it with a new stick to see what constructive uses can come of it. Collective rage is well utilized as motivation to seek out or offer support, to conceive of ways to impel groups or individuals into dialogue, or to demand accountability, progress, improvements. These are proper processes in the patterns of women coming to consciousness. These are appropriate to their caring about what is essential and important to them. It is part of the healthy instinctual psyche to have deep reactions to disrespect, threat, or injury. Devout reaction is a natural and expected part of learning about the collective words of soul and psyche. So, stuck in old rage. If and when rage becomes a dam to creative thought and action, then it must be softened or changed. For those who have spent considerable time working through a trauma, whether it was caused by someone's cruelty, neglect, lack of respect, recklessness, arrogance, ignorance, or even fate, there comes a time to forgive in order to release the psyche to return to a normal state of calm and peace. When a woman has trouble letting go of anger or rage, it's often because she's using rage to empower herself. While that may have been wisdom at the beginning, now she must be careful, for ongoing rage is a fire that burns her own primary energy. To be in this state is like speeding through the pedal to the metal, trying to live a balanced life with the accelerator pressed all the way to the floor. Neither is the fierce or the fieriness of rage to be mistaken as a substitute for a passionate life. It is not life at its best. It is a defense that, once the time of needing it for protection is past, costs plenty to keep. After a time, it burns indeterminately hot, pollutes our ideas with its black smoke, and occludes other ways of seeing and apprehending. Now, I'm not going to tell you a big fat lie and say that you can cleanse all your rage today or next week and it will be gone forever. The angst and torment of times past rise up in the psyche on a cyclical basis. Although a deep purging discharges most of the archaic hurt and rage, the residue can never be completely swept clear, but it should leave a very light ash, not a hungry fire. So the clearing of residual rage must become a periodic hygienic ritual, one that releases us, for to carry old rage beyond the point of its usefulness is to carry a constant of unconscious anxiety. Sometimes people become confused and think that to be stuck is an outdated rage means to fuss and fume and to act out and toss and throw things. It does not mean that in most cases. It means to be tired all the time, to carry a thick layer of cynicism, to dash the hopeful, the tender, the promising. It means to be afraid that you will lose before you open your mouth. It means to reach flashpoint inside, whether you show it on the outside or not. It means bilious, entrenched silences. It means feeling helpless, but there is a way out, and it is through forgiveness. Oh, arg, forgiveness, you say? Anything but that. But you know in your heart that someday, sometime it will come to that. It may not come until the deathbed time, but it will come. Consider this. Many people have trouble with forgiveness because they have been taught that it is a singular act to be completed in one sitting, and that is not so. Forgiveness has many layers, many seasons. In our culture, there is a notion that forgiveness is a 100% proposition, all or nothing. It is also taught that forgiveness means to overlook, to act as though a thing has not occurred. This is not true either. A woman who can work up to a good 95% forgiveness of someone or something tragic and damaging almost qualifies for beautification, if not sainthood. If she is 75% forgiving and 25%, I don't know if I can ever forgive fully, and I don't even know if I want to. That is more of the norm. But 60% forgiveness accompanied by 40%, I don't know, and I'm not sure, and I'm still working on it, is definitely fine. A level of 50% or less forgiveness qualifies for work in progress status. Less than 10%, you either just begun or you're not really trying yet. But in any case, once you've reached a bit more than halfway, the rest will come in time, usually in small increments. The important part of forgiveness is to begin and to continue. Begin again. The finishing of it all is a life work. You have the rest of your life to work at the lesser percentage. Truly, if we could understand all could be forgiven. But for most people, it takes a long time in the alchemical bath to come to this. It is all right. We have the healer, so we have the patience to see it through. Some people by innate temperament are more easily able to forgive others. For some, it is a gift. For most, it has to be learned as a skill. Essential vitality and sensitivity seem to affect the ability to pass things off. High vitality and high sensitivity do not always allow wrongs to be passed off easily. You are not bad if you do not forgive easily. You are not a saint if you do. Each to her own, all in due time. To truly heal, however, we must say our truth, and not only our regret and pain, but also what harm was caused, what anger, what disgust, and also what desire for self-punishment or vengeance was evoked in us. The old healer of the psyche understands human nature with all its foibles and gives pardon based on the telling of the naked truth. She not only gives second chances, she most often gives many chances. Let us look at the 4 levels of forgiveness. These stages I have developed and used in my work with traumatized people over the years. Each level has several layers. These can be dealt with in whatever order and for however long one desires, but I've listed them in order I encourage my own clients to begin working. The 4 stages of forgiveness: to forgo, to leave it alone, to forbear, to abstain from punishing, to forget, to aver from memory, to refuse to dwell, to forgive, to abandon the debt. And then there is more that she does share about all of those: to forgo, to forbear, to forget, and to forgive. And yeah, but I'll just leave it right there. And this is from the chapter of marking territory, the boundaries of rage and forgiveness. And when I come back for part 2, I'm going to share the story of the withered trees and that story, and a couple of other things. So thanks for listening. Be well, be loved, forgive yourself, forgive, others. Let's forgive our circumstances and take accountability and reclaim our power and our responsibility. All right. Love y'all. Peace.